Hello, beautiful nerdy stitchers. This is Mev back for an update. Today is Sunday, April 14th, I believe. It's a beautiful day, but it's very, very cold here in Paris. I'm back a little bit earlier than I usually do. It's been 4 weeks since my last update, but boy oh boy, have I things to tell you about. I was one of the very, very lucky ladies to go to the 2019 Dutch Stitch Retreat in Roden last weekend. It was my first ever retreat, and let's just say it was wonderful, perfect, awesome. I can't wax lyrically enough about the good times that we had there. I will get into that, I think, in the second part of my video. For now, I just want to, first of all, do the usual and say hi and thank you to all the new ladies and gents that have accepted to feature on the, am I going to do this right? Nope. On the world map of stitches. So that's going to be first. I have 4 finishes to show you, one of which is very, very, very special. I've got whips, I've got 2 new starts, and I've got loads to tell you. So let's get started. First off, there are a number of beautiful souls who have reached out to me since my last video to tell me their name and where they live. And I also took the liberty of asking my retreat crazy friends if it would be okay for me to feature them for those of them who weren't on the map yet. So let's take a minute for that. I want to say hi and thank you to Deborah in Bakersfield, California, Terry in Rapid City, South Dakota, Margit in Ontario, Canada. There's Jasmine in Rimouski, Quebec. Now, Jasmine, I need to tell you, so I don't know if you've seen more than just one of my videos, but my aunt, my crazy auntie, is somewhat of a celebrity now on my channel. And when she was very young, very rebellious, which hasn't changed except she's older now, she took her backpack in her very early 20s and fled France, and she spent at least a year, I think, in Rimouski, so that rings a bell definitely. Then there's Lisa, a southernmost stitcher in Key West, Florida. There's Ellen in Michigan. There's Michaela in München, Germany. There's Jean from Alabama. I have a new Kiwi stitcher, Debbie in Auckland, New Zealand. There's Judy in New Mexico. There's the lovely Lorna Ladybird Stitchers, whom I think we all know and love, from Sydney, Australia. There's Leslie in Philadelphia, PA. There is Nolene. So here's the start of the crazy, beautiful ladies that I met at retreat last weekend. So Nolene used to feature on the map in Qatar. She moved back in the UK. She now lives in Northumberland, United Kingdom. There's the lovely Emma Stitch M, who is in Northern UK as well. There's Margrethe. Okay, ladies, you know how I tried and I utterly failed in pronouncing proper Dutch, so I'm gonna butcher some of those names, but you know, I love you nonetheless. So there's Margrethe in the Netherlands, there's Diane, there's Patricia, there's Brigitte, I can only say the French way, there's Linda. Those ladies were at retreat and live in the Netherlands. And then there's Deborah in Belgium, there's Denise and Dunya in Germany. There is Laura, Messy Situation, also in Germany, in Bavaria. There's the lovely, absolutely lovely, sweet Yukus. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name correctly because I didn't practice enough. And Yukus is obviously the lovely person behind Extra U Designs. And she lives in Hungary. There is sweet Rosemary, who lives in Switzerland. There's Kelly, the evergreen needle. I will come back to Kelly for very special reasons. Kelly is the evergreen needle. As I said, she currently lives in Italy. And then we have the two beautiful Italian ladies, Orietta and Raffaella. And then last but certainly not least, there's Cheryl and her husband Sean, who are Americans, but they currently live in Qatar. So that adds up now to, I think, somewhere around 130 names on the World Map of Stitchers, which is awesome, beautiful, and now I can say that I know for real at least 25 of them, which is insane, and again, beautiful. So this was for the World Map of Stitchers. Do not hesitate to send out a small comment to say who you are, where you live, and I will be very, very glad to add you on this map. That's one thing. Now, are you ready for finishes? All right, let's roll. This one you have seen almost completely finished. I just needed to stitch a few buttons, and this is the lovely pattern Needle and Thread by Brenda Gervais, which I have stitched for my mother, and here it is now complete with shiny little mother of pearl buttons. Can you see they grab the light? Oh. They're tiny, obviously. This is stitched on 28 count linen Mellow by Picture This Plus 1/1. And so I chose the tiniest buttons from my mom's collection. I managed to grab some and then choose the ones I like best. Obviously they are very small. So this is now completely finished, and I still need to fully finish it with my crazy aunt. And I only now have 2 weeks left because I will be gifting this to my mother on her birthday, April 28th. So this is one. Next is the Amy Mitten kit, Forgery 17, which is called Rachel Hollowell's Sampler. It's an alphabet, a crazy alphabet, and it is done. So here it is. I know it doesn't show very well on camera because the colors are very subdued. Let me see if we do a close-up. Okay, so some of the colors are getting kind of, how do you say that? They're getting mixed with the fabric. So here it is. I hope you can see this well enough. It's beautiful. So it's much better, obviously, in real life because you actually see all the colors. There you go, and the very last line, and then some 1/1 stitches and some 4-sided stitches. I don't know if you can see this. Let me just bring it as close as I can. So the R, S, H, and then another S are stitched with 4-sided stitches, which is really, really fun. It just adds a quirky little touch to the signature, actually. And the rest is stitched 1/2, and I believe this is a 36 count. I'm not completely sure. No, it's a 32 count. So there you go. Amy Mitten's Forgery 17 is now finished. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, but I will take it at my mom's, and I think we will figure something out. Maybe I want to do some kind of maybe a cushion or something. I want to do something textile rather than have it framed. I'll discuss with my mom. Obviously, she's going to be a well of good ideas. So this is it. I'm very happy. This was a breeze to stitch, very easy. The silks from Amy Mitten are awesome. I still have quite a lot left, so they're directly going in my stash. And I think that these letters being pretty big, they can be used to stitch monograms if I feel like it, which is really, really cool. So, yeah, so there goes Forgery 17. Now, I've got a smaller finish, which is part of the Garden Club series by Blackbird Designs. I think you've seen this. I've shown this finished on Instagram. And I started, thank you all for those of you who commented on which one I would start next, or which of the series I would start next. And by an overwhelming majority, Butterfly Gardens, so Garden Club series number 5 was chosen, and this is what I started. So let me show you the finish, which I don't know what number it is, but anyway. So you've got, let me see. You've got this one finished. I love it. Can you see this tiny little minder? Needle minder? Ooh! This is a gift from Retreat, and I love it very much. It's tiny, which most of you know by now. I love tiny, so that's perfect. And I mean, it goes so well with the whole series, right? It's a tiny little flower. Let me just, there you go. And it's fabric on a little button. It's really, really cute. I like it very much. So this is the finished one, and then this is my start on Butterfly Garden. And I love the colors in this one. It's some blue grays and then some tans and a little bit of color for the plants. So far I've just got the flower pot and then this bird. And look at this, I mean, look at this butterfly. It's just beautiful. Butterfly with flowers in it, I don't think it goes more springy than that. So this is the travel piece. I will take it up when I visit my mom in 2 weeks, which is cool. And hopefully I can make some progress when I'm in the train. I did stitch on this going to Retreat, so I took the Thalys train, a high-speed train to Amsterdam. Talk about this a little bit more in detail at the end of the video. So I did work on it a little on my way there and back, but not much because my head was too full, too excited, whatever. So this is another finish and a tiny little start. Now, let's address the dragon in the room. Are you ready for this? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Dragons of Sumatra is finished. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and I just want to maybe, if you want to feel the sun coming through this fabric just for a little bit, wherever you are, I'm sure this will warm your heart. And I hope I'm not going to get too mushy, but still, I mean, all right, this is done. And it is, yeah, the colors are going to get screwed again. Oh no, come on. Let's try this again. I'm going to leave it there for a little while so that you can see the beauty of it. I am so happy. I am so very happy. So I finished the lower border this week. I think I finished it yesterday actually. I stitched the very last here border, and let me try and show you. Yeah, so I stitched my signature and the date because it is important. Can you see a tiny little mev here and a 2019? It's there. And look at those corners. I mean, this design. So obviously, sorry, this is Dragons of Sumatra by Ink Circles, stitched on 28 count linen from Tentaculum. This is the Klimt colorway, and I will show you the threads. There are over à soie, over dyed silks, 2 different kinds, but the colorway is the same, and it's called Waterhouse. Yeah, of course, the camera doesn't like the yellow and the blue, and so everything's kind of green, but you know the piece. I will take pictures and post them on Instagram with some details. This is just absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous. So this piece is going to be gifted to a very, very special someone. This is not going to be a surprise. I have spoken to this someone, and they accepted the gift. I believe that I will, yeah, I'm pretty sure I will frame this very simply, leaving enough of the yellow fabric. I have more than I need, right? Just to make it sing on that fabric. This is perfect for this particular person for so many reasons, and yeah, it's been a joy to stitch, and the more I went on it, the more I thought about this person, and so it just became obvious, and I'm very glad they accepted. So this will be framed, and then this will go into its new home. I have started this early November 2018, and I have finished it, as I said yesterday, so a bit of over 5 months, I think. It has kept me company all winter long, and I just cannot stress enough the sheer pleasure I got from stitching this. I will take pictures and send them to both Tentaculum Company and Ink Circles to thank them for the beautiful design and the beautiful threads and fabric that allowed me to get so much joy out of this. Yeah, this is it. I cannot begin to tell you how happy I am with this piece. Let me show you the silks. Just okay, let's try something. So for those of you who have shared my journey, by the way, I need to thank, all right, dedication time now. Bev Palette PC was the one I saw first stitching this, and she is, I think, stitching the upper corner here. And when I saw her first stitches and the design, I went straight to Ink Circles, and I actually bought the pattern. And so that was like, I don't know, maybe eight or 9 months ago. Bev, this finish is dedicated to you, because I mean, I wouldn't have done it if it weren't for you. So thank you so very much. I know a lot of you are stitching this, and I can see color combinations that are awesome. I have to say I'm very happy with that one. It's just perfect. So about the silks. So I have stitched the inside. So all of the motifs inside the box here, the rectangle, is stitched with au vert à soie d'Alger, overdyed, as I mentioned, in the Waterhouse colorway. So this is a regular 6-strand silk, yeah, spun silk, by the way. And then what I did, and I don't know if it shows, it kind of does, but not that much. It does show in real life. For the whole border around the central rectangle, I used a different kind of silk, and I think this is filament silk, and it's called Soie Gobelin. It's also an au vert à soie overdyed silk, and so because it is filament silk, it's much shinier, and it glides much more than the 6-stranded silk, and it's also a tiny little bit. Am I going to be able to show you something? It's a tiny little bit thinner than 1 strand of a 6-stranded silk. So it has a different effect on the border. The border is slightly shinier, but ooh, my goodness, sorry. This is if you have your nose on the piece that you can see it. And it's also a little bit more, like the stitches are finer. I don't know if I can show this to you, I don't think so. Let me try. So the difference between, okay, this green thing is annoying. So the border is slightly thinner than the actual central piece, which I like very much. So, and it's also a little bit darker. Let's get rid of the green. Yeah, I don't think you can see it. But anyway. So it was interesting because this Gobelin, this Soie Gobelin, was trickier in some way to stitch because it was very slick, or I don't know how you say this, and so it would tend to slip under the fabric threads easier than the regular au vert à soie d'Alger. but I love the effect of it, and I mean the result is just gorgeous. 1/1, 28 count. Okay, so this will be just in my living room for a while until I find the frame for it, and then it will be gifted. All right, enough. So this was Dragons of Sumatra by Ink Circles. It's gorgeous, and I'm very happy. Now, whips. Let me see. I only have one whip that you already saw, and that's the design I was gifted for my birthday by my colleague, and it's actually just, you know, invented out of nothing, but it's called La Boude, which is the where my father lives, and the reason it's called that way is because she used a picture of one of my dad's tool shed to actually design the piece. So let me show you from my iPad the pattern she came up with, that I changed just a little. So this is what it's going to look like, and this here is the actual tool shed. And then she added a wheelbarrow, a watering can, some little birds. Yeah, there you go. And the tree. And I added the flower pot and then the plants in the wheelbarrow. So this is what the pattern looks like. Obviously, I'm changing it as I go if need be. I already made a mistake, but that's fine. Now, I don't know if you remember, but this is another crazy fabric from Tentaculum. This is actually Cézanne, I believe. Look at this. Look at this awesome fabric. All right, and as you can see, I'm just still working on the tool shed. So this is only one color. I will soon be done with the lighter color on the shed, and then I've got another part here, and then the roof is a little bit darker. So this is quite, as you can see, repetitive. It's a little bit long. It was perfect for a retreat because I tried to put stitches on Dragons of Sumatra. Honestly, everything I stitched on the dragons was completely wrong. I didn't frog, by the way. I fudged big time. But I thought maybe something mindless would be better, because when you laugh too much and you talk too much, I mean, I personally cannot stitch right. So that was perfect. And even with something as simple like that, I did manage to mess up. And I'm fudging. So this is La Boude, designed by Audrey, my friend Audrey and I, stitched 2/2 on the 28 count Tentaculum fabric Cézanne colorway. Okay, this is an easy stitch, so if I feel kind of tired and I need something simple, I mean, obviously this is the perfect piece. Now, because Dragons is finished, you know what has happened, right? I have one new start that was in the works for a while. I have started Parchment Tapestry by Rosewood Manor. This is what the pattern looks like. Beautiful, beautiful flowery motifs, caged in honeycombs shapes, and then the most awesome crazy alphabet I have yet seen. And this one I have explained at length how I intend to change it a little bit. So let me just show you a mock-up of the changes that I've made, and so that you get an idea of how it will be stitched. So basically, it's the called for colors because Karen is a genius with colors, but I will not stitch all of the motifs. And so this is what it will look like, sort of. So I've left some motif, took out some of them, took out part of the honeycombs frames. They're on this side as well here. What will be stitched here are probably letters from this alphabet with words attached to them, obviously. either in backstitch or some kind of small alphabet. And the story behind this is this piece was inspired by old English fire screens, and I thought that I would like to make it older than it looks by like sort of ripping out some of the parts and then stitching something completely different, as if something had been under the fire screen, sort of like in 2 layers. So I have started this yesterday, and I'm going to show you my new start. The fabric I had ordered from the very sweet, very beautiful, lovely Yukos from XJU Design. As I mentioned, she was in Roden for the Dutch Stitch Retreat last weekend, and I had emailed her in advance because I knew what fabric I wanted, and so she very kindly dyed it for me and brought it to retreat. So, ready? It's beautiful. All right, let's see how that goes. I'm not sure it's going to be accurate. Yeah, it's washed out. Okay, so the fabric is January. Yes, I believe it is the January fabric of the month by XJU Design. The colorway is called Roasted Nuts, which incidentally is perfectly in sync with the theme of our retreat. More about it later. So see, Roasted Nuts, it's a very light kind of buttery color with stains of yellowy yellow. It's pretty mottled, but it's very light. This is a piece of 36 count linen, which I'm stitching over 2, 1/2, and this is my start. So one of the first flowery motifs I've started yesterday. Now, as you may know by now, I like tiny, and I like 1/1. Obviously on 36 count it doesn't make sense, so this is stitch 1/2, but I still think that the crosses are a little bit big. Some of you are going to scream, but can it focus? Yeah. So to my taste, the crosses are a tiny little bit big. I think I should have asked Yukos to dye a 40 count, but I mean the piece obviously is big enough, and those colors, people. I mean, let me show you. These are the colors for the first motif I'm stitching. So this is what I'm currently stitching here. These blues and greens, right? It's the central one here. Let me show you the colors. These are all Weeks Dye Works, by the way. I mean, guys, how beautiful is this? It has a vintagey, subdued feel to it. The colors go so very well together. In this little piece here, here, there are 3 different colors, and it's subtle, it's beautiful. I'm going to love this piece. I'm already in love anyway. So the crosses might be a little bit too big for my taste, but nevertheless, it's going to be beautiful. I'm very, very, very excited. So that was one very much anticipated start. I'm happy that that it's here now. Let's get into some retreat stuff now, because it will help me talk about my other new start, and I need some advice maybe, or I need to get your feeling about what I just started. And I'm looking at my notes because otherwise I'm going to be all over the place. So retreat in Roden. This was my first ever retreat, and I arrived on Thursday evening, and I think went home on Sunday night. I took a train to Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, and there I was able to pick up 2 lovely ladies, Rosemary and Lisa, and we drove to the retreat location together, and that was a perfect way to get in the actual mood and to get to know at least two people. I knew obviously via social media some of the ladies there, and I had met the darling Bluebell, Mika, and Patricia in Paris. But other than that, I didn't know anybody, and I hadn't attended a retreat before, so it was a little bit intimidating. But then again, two things happened. Well, first I had the privilege of driving with those two ladies to retreat, and so that was a perfect way to kind of get acquainted and start, you know, making connections with people. And then when we got there on Thursday evening, what happened was, well, some of the ladies that were already there actually kind of knew me because they had seen, watched my videos. So it was a strange feeling. I'm sure that those of you floss tubers who have attended retreats before may have had this impression. It's kind of strange because people know you and you don't know them. But on the other hand, it's so very easy to then, you know, connect and communicate directly with the people. So that made it very easy for me to just, you know, dive in and be there. And as you may have heard from Mika and Debbie, Creatively Yours, and Ingeborg, A Stitch Too Far, I managed to, let's say, yeah, I managed to get noticed against my will, completely involuntarily. But anyway, so that was it. Just it goes to show how at ease I felt. And I think the main thing that I want to say about actually the feel and the environment of this whole weekend was benevolence. I mean, sheer benevolence. People so very nice to each other, so very sweet, interested, ready to connect, ready to discuss, to talk, obviously, to laugh. We say in France that if you laugh 5 minutes, you gain 5 years of lifespan. Well, let me tell you one thing. The 25 ladies that were at retreat this weekend are going to live to be 125. We laughed so hard. On top of the abs workout, we have gained so many years of life just by the constant laughter. It was it was beautiful. I'm not going to talk about any events. They have been talked about long enough by beautiful storytellers, so I'm not adding my 2 cents in there. Just to say, the atmosphere was utterly relaxed, and I think that a group that size allows you over 3 days to sit with people, different people, and chat about stitching, chat about flosstube or YouTube for those interested. I had very, very enlightening and interesting conversation with the likes of Ingeborg or Debbie and Mika around flosstube. That was very nice, and I got some invaluable tips for my stitches, which I'm going to share now. I'm struggling with my chatelaine piece, the graceful sampler. It was on a Q-snap, and I was stitching with a magnifier, and the setup wasn't right. So neither the Q-snap nor the magnifying glass was comfortable for me for this particular piece. And so I talked about this at retreat, and Kelly, the lovely, sweet Kelly, the evergreen needle, suggested that I tried a special kind of lap stand hoop thing that she actually had with her. And so I was able to test it, and it's actually, let me see my note, it's a Morgan lap stand combo. So it's basically 2 hoops linked together by little tiny plastic thingies. They come in different size, but the one that Kelly had with her, I think, was a 7 and 10 inch combo. So basically you've got those 2 hoops like parallel to each other. I think it's also very good for punch needle. So you can put this on your lap. You can, you know, be completely like all over the place on your couch, and this is very, very easy. So I tried it, and it convinced me that that was much better for me than the Q-snap. So I'll be soon ordering one to stitch my chatelaine with, and I'm very happy because I felt really disappointed and kind of frustrated not to be comfortable stitching this piece, which I really love. But again, something was wrong. So this this idea from Kelly, thank you so very much for suggesting this, and then let me try yours. It's just perfect. If I may, small parenthesis here for about Kelly. You must know Kelly. She goes by the Evergreen Needles. She's got a number of videos on flosstube, and she, among others, she is the absolute queen of fancy lady conversions. She has done some Mirabilia ladies conversion that are absolutely stunning, and we had the immense privilege to see them in real life. 3 of them, 1 mermaid I think and 2 fancy ladies, and if you haven't seen them, please go check her videos, because not only can she convert and stitch obviously, but the way she explains her process and her journey in conversion is fascinating, and to see them for real was like, it was Christmas. I mean, it's just beautiful. So Kelly, thank you again so very much for allowing us to admire your pieces, and for taking the time in your videos to explain how you go about converting, because as we all know, Mirabilia, I mean, Nora Corbett takes so much time, especially working on the shading of her dresses and skins and stuff, that conversion can be pretty daunting, I can imagine. So if you're interested, please go check Kelly's videos. They're awesome. They're really, really good. So that was for Kelly. Thank you again for this, for showing me this lap stand, by the way. So this is going to happen soon. Now the other thing that I took from retreat, the other tip that I took from retreat, was about my magnifier. So I have a magnifier that is about that big, and it stands on my chest when I'm stitching. So it doesn't follow my my eyes. It's just there, and it can't really move, right? And for the chatelaine in particular, it was really not convenient. Now, Ingeborg's very good friend Anarike was there, and she was sitting close to me for most of the retreat. And at some point, so I was trying Ingeborg's crazy glasses, and then the lovely Linda had some clips that she just put on her own glasses to have magnifiers. That didn't really work out for me. And so Anarike at some point just handed me her cheaters, and I put them like I put them over my own glasses, and that was it. That was perfect. And thankfully Eveline had like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 pair of cheaters or something. So I actually stole one of her pairs, and I stitched with that all weekend. And when I came back to Paris, what I did was I bought a pair for me. Now, are you ready for this? This is sexy as hell. So this is now how I stitch. Yeah. All right, this is completely ridiculous. So I think I win the sexy war this time, Ingeborg, don't I? So I stitch with my own glasses. I need them, otherwise like everything's completely out of focus. And then in order to actually just see things bigger, I put the cheaters on. These are 2.0, I think. And so I put them at the tip of my nose, and then I stitch away, and it works just fine. And I look completely ridiculous. So this is me, yeah, in my sexiest look ever. So that was awesome. I mean, this is another epiphany or revelation. It's perfect. So thank you, ladies, very, very much. I'm hooked. I'm done for. This is good. What next in the retreat things? Oh, the smalls exchange. So Ingeborg had organized a secret ornament or small gift exchange. And I want to show you what I stitched, and I want to show you the present that I got, which is perfect on so many levels. I cannot insert photos because editing my videos still incur like huge synchronization problems. I apologize. So this is kind of, yeah, this is not really good, right? But until I figure out what's wrong with the sync thing, I'm going to show you pictures from my iPad, which is kind of ridiculous. Anyway, so I was to stitch a little tiny something for Brigitte, who came with her friend Margaret to retreat. And I actually did a tiny, you know me, ornament that I will try to show you. Brigitte very kindly took some pictures and sent them over to me. So this is a tiny little ornament that I stitched, half stitched 2/1 on 28 count, and this is one of the XJU design. So what it is, it's a 2.5 inch square, tiny stitch, and I'm going to show you the pattern because this is a freebie, and if you're interested, it's beautiful to pick patterns and letters from it. It's called Bleu Délicieux, so delicious blue, by Reflet de Soie. Reflet de Soie is a French sampler designer. She does original sampler reproductions. She does beautiful things, and this is on her website, and it's a freebie, and it's just awesome. This is sort of an Art Deco kind of collection of motifs, and look at this alphabet. So what I did is I stitched this little thing here, 2/1 using a Sajou thread, 10 stitch. And so I ended up with a square approximately, yeah, between 2.5 and 3 inches. And then my mom, as usual, had me transform this little square in this tiny little ornament here, right here. And then I made a tassel, and we added a beautiful little bead, a glass bead that is perfect for the colors that I had chosen. Let me see if I can show you another picture. There you go. So that's the ornament, and then I used the alphabet from the same design to stitch a tiny little piece, tiny bee, and made a card out of it for Brigitte. So using the same Sajou silk, but this time full crosses, 1/1. So that was what I made. I think she liked it, and I took a lot of pleasure stitching this. It was really, really cool, and the finishing is I think quite nice. It's like, I don't know, it's like, yeah, this big, tiny. Anyway, so that was that. Now I got something so very special. Rosemary from Switzerland had to stitch something for me, and Rosemary had seen my videos, so she knew a little bit about me. And she mentioned the fact that because I love words so much, she decided to stitch an excerpt of a poem by Clement Montano. Clement Montano is a German poet. He was born in the late 18th century. He died mid-19th century, and he is said to be one of the first German romantic writers. I think he was part of the Heidelberg school, and so she gave me this lovely card, which is a picture of a stitch piece, which I find awesome. And then she inserted the whole poem for me to have as a reference. It's in German, obviously. I needed to have help translating it, but I did find 2 different French translations of the poem. So now I know how beautiful it is. And so what Rosemary did is she stitched the very last 2 verses of the poem, and I am going to read them to you, and then I'm going to give you obviously the English translation. So this is the piece. Look at this. It is so very beautiful. The border is just perfect. The effect of the butterfly underneath the writing is also beautiful. She finished it as a tiny little, whatever you call it, hanging thing. This is now in my office, right next to me, so that I can look at it every day. And then she stitched my name and her name, and this year. It is so very beautiful. And so it says, Stern und Blume, Geist und Kleid, Lieb, Leid und Zeit und Ewigkeit. And here is what this means. So this is these are the very last verses of this poem. And so the translation is star and flower, soul, and garment, love, sorrow and time, and eternity. Say that again. Star and flower, soul and garment, love, sorrow and time, and eternity. Rosemary, you know how much this means to me. It's beautiful. I'm so very lucky. And then to go with this, and because of words and because of designing and because of all of the things, I got so Rosemary gifted me with this Caran d'Ache little set. Caran d'Ache is one of the best fine arts pens and pencils there is out there. It is 100% Swiss, as you can see. And so inside this set are two pencils made. One of them is they're made of Swiss wood only. This one is beech tree wood, and this one is what is called Swiss pine or Arola pine, very light one. And the eraser just fell, and then there's a sharpener here. I used this morning to figure out my new start. So thank you so very much, Rosemary. This is very thoughtful and spot on. I mean, everything was just perfect. So thank you again very much. Now, oh yeah, I just wanted to show you one last picture. I had been at my mom, I think 2 weeks before retreat, and she was playing again with fabrics. She hadn't come up with a new idea, obviously. I don't know if you saw my Instagram post from 3 weeks ago. It was just a picture of the dining room table at my mom's, like filled with tiny little squares of fabric, probably, I don't know if it's it's not even an inch, it's probably, I don't know, 6, 8, whatever of an inch. So tiny little squares of fabric, mainly printed cotton, traditional African fabric. And what she would do with those tiny little squares of fabric is arrange them on pieces of cardstock, like I think it was 3 by 4. So to make rectangles of 3 tiny little square by 4 tiny little square, arranged in colors like she wanted, and then she would make cards to send to her friends with that. So just 12 little tiny squares of fabric glued on cardstock, and then written for whomever she wanted to send something to. And when I saw that the first night, I thought, oh, that's really fun. That's interesting. This is so very easy. I mean, all you need to have is those tiny fabrics and then cardstock and glue, and that's done, right? And when I woke up the next morning, I thought, but that would be interesting to have for name tags. And so I messaged Ingeborg, asked if she was okay for me to do name tags for a retreat. And she said yes, and so I did. I'm going to show you mine. So it's basically our first name printed on cardstock and then with a tiny little square of fabric glued on it. So this is mine. And then what I found was those little, I don't know how you call them, but so I have no idea what this is called. But anyway, this is the way that you would put it on your t-shirt or whatever sweater. So we had those for the retreat, and I just want to show you a picture of all of them together because it's actually more interesting to see all 25. So these are all the name tags that were done for retreats. and it was so very easy, and I loved doing them. For some of the ladies that I already knew, either in real life or via social media, I tried to find things that made sense. So let me just show you just one or two examples. For instance, yeah, so Ingeborg's one, I found this fabric, like it looks kind of, to me, it looks like kind of little house or little hut or something. And I thought, she is our host. She organized the whole retreat. And I thought the little house, just to show how welcoming she is, was made sense to me. So I chose this tiny piece of fabric for her. Now, unsurprisingly, we've got some blues for Mika Darling Bluebell, for instance. I don't know if this is going to show or not. Yeah, no, it doesn't really show. Huh? This one's Mika's, so blues. I had Debbie, Creatively Yours. I was thinking of her hate projects, which have a lot of fiery colors in what she's currently stitching. And so I found this piece here, right here, for Debbie. Cheryl, I didn't know, I just knew she was American, and I thought a star would be very becoming for her. And it just so happens she has lived in Texas, which is even better. Anyway, so it was a lot of fun and very easy to do. And so, you know, for those of you who would need someday somehow to do name tags, this is like the easiest way. You need tiny pieces of fabric, cardstock, and glue, and you're done. So that was a lot of fun. That's name tags and retreat. All right, I think that the very last thing I want to talk about is a tiny little bit of a haul, and that will lead me to my second start of the weekend, because it is something that I actually purchased at retreat and kitted up at retreat. So a little bit of background. I had not set myself a budget, but I knew that I could not go crazy on spending. And here's why. I want to share this because it's good news and it's going in the right direction. I'm currently renting my apartment, and the landlord decided that she would sell it. And in France, when this happens, the landlord or the owner of the apartment has to first propose the apartment to the actual occupants, i.e. me. So back in Jan or Feb, I learned that she was intending to sell the apartment, and that would mean either I had to move in 6 months' time, or I had to buy the place. Given the crazy, insane prices of real estate in Paris, I never thought I would be able to actually afford the place. But I did give it a try with my bank, and apparently I can borrow the money needed to buy the flat. So I went for it. I did propose a price to the owner, and she accepted it. And so last Wednesday, we actually signed the first step of the actual sale, which is called Provisional Agreement for Sale and Purchase, which is an official document which actually binds the owner and, I mean, the buyer and the seller. And roughly just says the seller is okay to sell it at a certain price, and the buyer commits to buy it provided they get the loan they need, if they need one, to buy the flat. So that's done. That was signed last Wednesday. The final sale agreement will be signed in 3 months' time. We had to allow for first me getting the money somehow, and then all those kind of legal stuff needs to go on. So early July, if all goes well, and I'm touching wood, I will actually be officially owning my flat, which is just awesome. But that also means that I will be eating, as Emma says, baked beans for the next 25 years. So I need to be very, very frugal on my spending. because this loan is going to be a little bit heavy on my shoulders. So it's awesome news, but that means no stitchy crazy purchases for me for a while, which is fine because I have at least 20 or 30 years of stitching ahead of me now. So all's good. I did, however, purchase one particular special thing, a pattern that I kitted up. I had been looking around for patterns on the primitive side around friendship. I want to do a piece for a friend, a very special friend, and so I was on the lookout for patterns around friendship. I had obviously seen Blackbird Designs' Our Lasting Friendship. I hadn't bought it because minimal spending and stuff. And now obviously the local needle shop that we went to during retreat had this booklet from Blackbird Designs, and I thought this makes complete sense. Well, first of all, I could see it for real. Second, I mean, what best symbol during such a retreat than to buy a pattern around friendship? This whole thing was about friendship. Crazy, funny, lovely friendship. So it made complete sense. And so I bought the pattern on my first visit to the LNS in Roden. I think you've all seen this. So this is Our Lasting Friendship with 3 different projects by Blackbird Designs. So this is these are the 3 different designs. So there's a box top, there's a sampler, and then there's a little cushion. Let me try and show you all 3. So this one is the tiny house for a pincushion. Then you have, oh, this one is lovely too. This is a like a small series of motifs to do a box top, and then there's a sampler, and obviously I'm stitching the sampler, and this is the sampler, which says, may this be the token of our lasting friendship. It has medallions here, or cartouche with initials to customize with, with whomever your friends are. And I love this pattern very much. I mean, I love Blackbird Designs anyway. I like the pattern. Now, the person this particular piece is intended for is not crazy for yellow, brown, tan colors. And as you can see on this piece, there are 2 main colorways actually. There are greens and there are tans. And so I thought I would need to convert the tan yellows, oranges, and browns. And I did. Now, I blame it all on Mieke, that I converted, well, all of the colors, which are, I think, Week Dye Works and Classic Color Works. Yes, I converted all the colors into Gloriana's. Now, obviously, this is all of Miike's fault. And so what I did the second day, I went back to the LNS with the pattern. I picked up all of the called for threads because I wanted to have an idea what kind of shades that were in the different greens and tans, so that I could pick up, well, the green conversions. So there are 4 different greens, I think. And then I wanted to transform, or replace rather, the tans by blues. And so I picked up all of the 5 shades of oranges and tans, and then kind of tried to select 5 blues that were in the same kind of shade range, if that's what you can say. Anyway, so I bought them, and this is where it is. As for fabric, I thought, I didn't really know what I wanted. I wanted a very vintagey look, and I had the very awesome, cool, beautiful Grandpa's Sleeve fabric by XJU. I knew I had it at home. Didn't have it with me at retreat, but I knew I had it at home. And I thought, okay, I'm going to stitch this like it's very, very old, like we found it in a trunk 250 years ago, right? And so I decided I would actually stitch the piece on Grandpa's sleeves. And thankfully, Yukos had brought with her a finished piece with the fabric, so I was able to at least put the threads that I had chosen on the fabric and see whether that would work or not. And it does work, in my opinion. And so I started it this morning. All right, let me show you. So again, there are 4 greens that are as close as possible as the called for classic colorworks. And then there are 5 blues that are replacing the 10s. And this is on Grandpa sleeve fabric. This is a 32 count linen, and I'll talk more about it in a minute. Like, is this not going to be very beautiful? Ooh, so nice. And I mean the Gloriana silks. Anyway, you could pet them all day, I think. So, yes, I'm very happy with that. Very, very happy. So the blues are going to be where the orangey tans are, and then the greens are staying where they are, right? Now, let's talk about how I will be stitching this. Now, 32 count is a little bit small to do 1/1, but as you know, it's too big to do 1/2, and I don't like 2/2. So this morning, I had to try, right? I had to see whether, and obviously the motifs are quite small, so 1/1 is going to be a little bit tricky. But then again, I don't know if you remember a present from my sister by Needle Work Press that I stitched earlier, stitched last year. I did stitch it 1/1 and it worked, and it was really nice. And so I think I'm going for it. I have stitched one little motif this morning because I wanted to show you, and I want your very honest take on this. Let me know if you think this is crazy and it doesn't make sense because we won't see the motifs. Maybe I can do a mix of 1/1 and 1/2. Like maybe the medallions can be stitched over 2 so that they actually like are there, and this is the meaningful part, obviously, because this is where the friend's initials are. So I have stitched this central tiny little tree here, right? I don't even know if you're going to be able to see it. Let me put something behind me, the fabric. This fabric is so stained and splotched with full of splotches and stuff that you can barely see the tiny little tree. But I love it. Yeah, I know. Is it ridiculous or is it gonna work? I want to go for it. I think I'm gonna go for it. And I mean, obviously, I chose the wrong first motif because this is a green. This is, I think, Loden. Yeah, this is Loden green, and obviously it gets, you know, kind of faded in this particular fabric. I mean, once I get to stitch some blues, I think it's gonna pop out more. But this is okay. This is green. It's not gray. But anyway, as usual. So I don't know. What do you think? You know, I'm stubborn and I like tiny, so I think I'm gonna go for it. But if you really feel it's just like the stupidest idea, do let me know, please. Pretty please. All right, we're almost done. I need to do one more thing, and that is the word thing. It's been a while, and I have a perfect word related to retreat. It's not going to involve waxing, it's not going to involve balls or nuts or whatever. It's going to be very serious. Yeah, right. It's at least going to be stitchy related, and the word thing is about biscornu. You may have heard, if you've seen darling Bluebell Mika's last video, as well as Debbie Creatively Yours last video about retreat. One of the word that, I don't know, took for no reason during retreat was biscornu. Not biscornu as in English, but the actual French word biscornu. Now, so the actual object that we stitch, right, that is called a biscornu, and that I think is used as a pincushion, basically. This is a word we don't use as you do in French. However, biscornu is definitely first a French adjective, which means something that has absolutely nothing to do with stitches or pincushions or whatsoever. Biscornu literally means, in its current meaning, either weirdly shaped, twisted, lopsided. It's really biscornu means that it has, yeah, kind of a bizarre shape, whatever it is. Something that is biscornu is really kind of like deformed or lopsided. There's a better adjective than that. Anyway, you get the meaning, right? So this is biscornu. Now, it appears that there are two difficult sounds in there for English speakers, but as it turns out for Dutch speakers as well. There's the R, of course, the R. R is kind of difficult. And then there's the U. Now, U is U, right? But when you don't have it in your language, it makes for some interesting faces when you say the word biscornu. So you should see Mika and Debbie pronouncing it. It's very funny. Take a look at their mouth when they do the U sound. Very funny. Very, very funny. So another moment of craziness and giggles and laughs when I pronounced biscornu how it should be pronounced. Anyway, I just want to say this though. So biscornu, obviously, today is an adjective that means weirdly shaped, literally. However, the original, the first meaning of the word, so it's derived from Latin in two pieces. So bi is the equivalent of bi or bis, bis, which is two or twice in Latin, right? And then corne or cornu is also from Latin, and it means horns, literal horns. And so biscornu used to mean with two horns or with two, I wanted to look at the English translation and I did, two angles, like sticking out angles, right? So the actual object, biscornu, in which you put your pins in, makes complete sense because it does have those angles that kind of stick out on your piece, right? So, as always, total, logic. The actual original meaning of the French word is used today in English to actually okay, I need to stop this video. To actually explain an object that has those kind of angled shapes, right? So biscornu in French now means completely whacked or weird shaped, but the original meaning is closer to the actual object in English. So this is the word thing for you, ladies and gent, all around the biscornu. And I think I will stop here for today. Enough rambling. I just want to say again a huge thank you first to Ingeborg, who organized masterfully this lovely retreat, to all the ladies and gents, thinking of you, Sean, for being there, for their sweetness, their kindness, their generosity, their laughter, their silliness, their everything. I also want to thank all of you watching regularly and having subscribed to my channel, which for me is wonderful and crazy at the same time. To all of those, who have reached out to allow me to get this crazy map, together, and to the love that is just seeping through our videos, our Instagram posts, our kind words to one another, our WhatsApp messages. It makes for an incredible journey, and so I'm very grateful for that. Very, very grateful. I will leave you here. I will bid you a lovely Sunday morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be. And until I see you next, stitch well, be kind, and as we say in Amsterdam, die ballen.